Hello, hello, good evening. Thank you, Dare to Dream team, for taking the time out to be on our Jewel training call for the month of November. We have a very special guest and friend of mine here to talk with us tonight, Emerald Jenny Kent. She lives outside of Shreveport in Louisiana. She told me that that's the best way to describe where she lives. And she has an incredible story. I think you guys are going to be really inspired. She's not necessarily the typical flew to the top right away, but she is very successful just because she is a jewel herself. But she has quite the story and just a lot of ups and downs, more ups than downs, but downs as well. And she's just going to share from her heart, share her story and just a few tips. So I'm going to give it away to Jenny and we'll have you get started.
Okay, thank you so much. I do want to just give you a really quick shout out, Suzanne, and tell you that, whenever I started Plexus, these are some of the calls that I watched over and over. I just latched on to everything on these calls. And so I appreciate you having me on. And I hope that you guys get as much out of this call as I did. When I started, we did not have Google Hangouts. We didn't have Zooms. We had the old school, conference calls. And I remember just getting on those like they were my lifeline to success. And so I totally understand how it feels, regardless of what rank you're at, to sit back and watch one of these videos. And hopefully you find something that you can relate to. Also, if you're on here, I want to just give you a big shout out and a big congratulations, because that means that you are really committed. That means that you find enough value in yourself and in your business to make some sacrifices, because you could be in there watching Grey's Anatomy with your family, but instead you are on here. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about tonight. A few weeks ago, I made a post that kind of started floating around, and there was a quote on that post by Lucille Ball, and it says, I'm going to read this: "One of the things that I learned the hard way was that it doesn't pay to get discouraged. Keeping busy and making optimism a way of life can restore your faith in yourself." And how true is that? Just like Suzanne said, my journey has been full of really high highs and really low lows. I know how it feels to be on top of the mountain and to grow by hundreds of points every month. And I also know how it feels to fall backwards and to not know why and to not feel like you have any control over that. And so I'll kind of share my story so that you know where I'm coming from. And then I've got a few tips for you guys how I've climbed out of the valley several different times. Back in the summer of 2014, things were going really well for me and my family. I had a little girl. She was 2.5 years old. I was married in a great marriage. We had great jobs. I mean, we were just doing everything that we really had dreamed of. I was that girl that wanted to lose some weight, and so I ordered the pink drink one time in the summer of 2014. I did not take it very consistently, and I proclaimed to the world that it didn't work. Have you ever had anyone like that? I certainly have, but I give them a little bit of room to say that because I was that girl. It wasn't until later that year in December that everything kind of started to shake loose for me and my family. I had done network marketing 2 different times before. And so while I was very happy for my friend who was doing well at Plexus, I wanted no part of it. But in December of 2014, we found out that our employers were moving. And that meant some really big changes for our family. We didn't have the typical work relationship. Not only did my husband and I both work for our employers, but we also lived on their property in a house that they owned. And so whenever they told us they were moving, that was a really significant change in our life. And they gave us the option to go with them. We chose not to. We chose to stay here knowing that my husband was going to lose his job whenever they left. And so I'm the type of girl that likes to get things done. I like to be in control always. We had worked very hard to become debt-free, and I wanted to stay that way. And so I started praying really hard for something to come into our lives. Never thought it would be network marketing. I certainly never thought it would be Plexus. But I woke up one morning with the word plexus on my mind. And that's it, just that one word. And I reached out to Christy, and she told me how much money she was making as an Emerald Ambassador. She sent me the comp plan. I read through the whole comp plan. I read through everything about the products. And I knew that this was an answer to prayer for me, without a doubt. I just knew. And so I signed up that night, which is really unlike me. I'm a green personality. I kind of go slow. I process things slowly. So that was very out of character, but I felt confident. So I want to mention this. I always like to say this. Christy had been posting for 13 months, and not a single time was I ever interested in her business. Until that day, until the day that I joined. And so, you know, if you've been posting for a long time and you feel like you're not getting any response, I want you to know that that doesn't mean that your next jewel isn't watching you. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. I knew whenever I started that I had to do something different with this company than I had done with those other two companies, right? The other two companies, I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, wanted it to work, would have been excited if it had, but I didn't really go all in. And so I kind of had this motto from the beginning, and I said, I will not fail at Plexus, because I will not quit until I'm successful. And you guys, on my worst days, that little motto has kind of carried me through, okay? So I had this timeline in mind. Christy kind of, in my opinion, went pretty fast. And I thought, okay, I know how long it took her to go silver. I know how long it took her to go gold. I had it all written out. And I thought, I'm going to do exactly what Christy did, right? She went silver a month from whenever she started sharing. So I wanted to do the same thing, and I accomplished that. I don't remember the exact dates now, but I had everything written all out, and things didn't exactly pan out that way. You guys know the roller coaster that it can be at times in your life whenever you add a few and you lose a few, and you add a few and you lose a few. And that's kind of how it was for me on the way to gold. I remember being so frustrated and so upset and calling Christy saying, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. And she, of course, explained to me that this is part of that business. And I kind of just kept trudging away. So I was on the hamster wheel. And I want to mention this. I grew up in the horse world, okay? We grew up rodeoing. We grew up, I grew up hauling hay and doing all those things that a farm girl does. And so there's something that I was really lucky to learn early on in life. And that is that just because something is hard does not mean that you shouldn't do it. Okay. In the world that I grew up in, everything was hard. You did it whether it was too hot, too cold, too late, you had homework, you were too busy. It didn't matter, because still the animals had to be fed, everything had to be taken care of. And if you were going to compete at a top level, you had to work your tail off. And there was nothing easy about that. And so I kind of reverted back to that during that time, trying to get to gold. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do whatever the best people do, right? So I got on all these calls, and whatever they told me, if they said message 10 people, then I messaged 10 people. If they said post on Facebook, then I posted on Facebook. Whatever they did, that's what I did, okay? The other thing that they did is I remember Christy and Rebecca talking about convention. And you guys, I was a silver ambassador. I had no intention of going to convention. I did not know anyone besides my sponsor in Plexus. Had a baby, had all the reasons that I shouldn't go. But I thought, again, if Christy says I'm supposed to go, and this is what I'm going to do, this is what I've chosen, then I have to go if that's what she says I should do. And so I messaged her on the last day that we could possibly register, and I said, if you can find me some roommates, I will go to convention. And she did. I went to convention by myself. I stayed with 3 girls that I'd never met before, and it was a life-changing experience. We shot Christy's Diamond documentary whenever we were there for convention that year. And if you've watched her Diamond documentary, you'll see me with ugly tears running down my face, and just really kind of distraught. And the reason that I was distraught is because whenever we were there, right before we filmed that Diamond documentary, my husband called and said that he had just gotten the phone call and that this was the last month that they were fixing to move, that our employers were moving. And so his job was officially over. And I came home and I thought, okay, here I go. This is what I'm going to do. A few weeks later, I went to the beach. And while we were on the beach, I looked in my back office and I had gone gold. And you guys, at that point, in the situation that my family was in, that was such a huge relief. I mean, those 4 letters, gold is a big, big deal. And it made a huge impact on my family. And so I remember just feeling like, oh my gosh, I finally did it. Those 20 people, I had put blood, sweat, and tears into those 20 people. So I came back from the beach. We got busy again. We were in momentum. We went senior gold the next month. 2 months later, we went ruby. And then everything fell backward again because the back office changeover happened in October of 2015. And I do want to give you guys a little bit of advice with this. That back office changeover was much different than the one that we're experiencing now. Our company has learned so much, and I've been so proud of them with the communication and how quickly they're handling things and how quickly they're tackling things. And I promise you, this situation that we are in now is much different than the one that I went through then, okay? I don't want to scare you about the back office because it was a different beast then. But it was hard, and I was a brand new Ruby. I was trying to figure out how to be a leader. I had a lot of wrong ideas about how to be a leader. I didn't always make the right decisions. I didn't always know what to do or how to help people. I spent more time on the phone with customer service than I did with my family some days. It was not pretty. But again, in February of 2016, we kind of regained our momentum. I went senior ruby in February and emerald in March. Okay. So as you can see, my business it doesn't have this nice pretty curve to it. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And I didn't appreciate that for so long. It's emotional and it's hard on you as a person, and you start to doubt yourself whenever you've got that kind of journey. But there are some things that I've learned from it, and that's what I kind of want to talk to you about tonight, because whenever you get to a jewel level, that type of roller coaster doesn't stop. I went emerald in March of 2016, and I'm still emerald. Now, I'm very, very thankful, so thankful and so grateful to be in this position and to have this amazing income so that I could quit my job when things got crazy there and I came home, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And I'm so thankful for that. But it doesn't mean that whenever you get to a jewel rank that things just get easy. And I haven't just flown to sapphire or flown to diamond. And so it's really important that you learn from all the things along the way, because you're going to need those later on. So I've got 3 things here that I want to kind of chat with you about, things that I've learned. And the first one is that I didn't know it then, but I needed those hard times. I needed the growth that came from them. I needed to grow up as a person. I needed to learn how to lead. I needed to learn how to empathize with people who didn't go fast or didn't go as fast as I was going at that point. I needed to learn how to coach people. I needed to learn how to control my own mind, how to get myself back in a better place. The struggles are what teach you. I didn't learn very much in the times that we were going really fast. It was crazy and it was exciting, and I thought I was doing such a great job, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And so I truly believe that every struggle that you go through that for a reason. And I like that quote that says, "You've been given this mountain to show that it can be moved." Because so many times people have come back to me And they've asked me these questions. What do you do whenever you're down in points? What do you do whenever this is going on your team? And those things that I thought were so bad for me to go through are actually the lessons that I have now that I've made it through, that I can teach someone else, or I can offer someone else a piece of advice. And so now I realize, hindsight's 2020, and looking back on that, I realize why I went through the things that I went through. Okay. If you climb your way out of a hole, you're going to be able to reach down and help someone else out of that same hole. Does that make sense? The other thing is, I remember one time, this was whenever I was trying to go gold. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have not signed up a new ambassador in forever. I just felt like such a failure. And then I had this weird thought, and I thought, what would I even do with the new ambassador if I signed them up? Like, let's say I got one of these dream teamers. How would I handle that? What would I do? Am I ready to get one of these people that I so desperately want? And I realized very quickly that I wasn't, because I had no clue what I would do if I got them. And so I made up my own new ambassador folders, and I printed them all out, and I put them all in an envelope, and I had the priority mailing stamp on there. All that had to be done was write an address on it. And I made up 10 of those. And I'll tell you, those 10 new ambassador folders got used. And so sometimes I think that you're in a place of struggle because you're really not ready to move forward. And so when you're in that place, you've got to inspect what's going to happen when you move forward. What if you get what you want? How will you deal with that? Okay. That's a lot of this personal growth that everyone talks to you about. You really do need it. I remember a lot of times people would say, you need to read this book or you need to read that book. And I would think like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And I would buy it, but then I wouldn't read it. And turns out I needed those books, and I would have been a lot further along had I actually read them whenever they told me to read them. Okay. So the second thing that I want to talk to you about is that this business is your responsibility. Okay. It's not mine. It's not my sponsors. It's not even the company's. Okay. We are essentially hired. We are paid to do a job, and it's our job to figure that out. Okay. The company doesn't have to keep throwing bones. They don't have to keep throwing new products out there. They do because it's smart business, but people made it to Diamond on just the breast check kit. So you don't have to have all of these other things. It's nice that we do, but it's not necessary. Okay. It's not your spouse's job. It's not your sidelines job. It's certainly not your team's job to get you there, okay? If this is what you want to do, if this is the path that you've picked, you own it. And you own everything that has anything to do with it, okay? You own your activity. You own your mindset. You own your time. You own the people that you let surround you. That's all you. And so if this is what you want, you've got to take some accountability and some responsibility for that. We all have families. We all have excuses. We all have too much to do and too little time. But if this is a priority for you, you will figure it out. I started when I was working, I made it to Emerald with a full-time, very stressful job. And I remember sitting in my car eating a sandwich on my lunch break. I would run to Berkshire's, grab a sandwich, sit in my car, and send out messages. And that's how I worked my business, because at night I would want to come home and play with my baby. So I knew I had to make it fit somewhere. But you guys, this is what I picked. And I wanted this to work for my family. And so I had to work for it. It's no different than right now, this business has given me so much freedom, and I'm so appreciative of that. I don't have a full-time job anymore. I do get to do things like run to my daughter's Veterans Day program this morning at 9 o'clock and not ask a boss off. But at the same time, I've got places to go. I want to be Sapphire. I want to be Diamond. And so I can't sit back and not do anything. It is my responsibility to come in here in this room and work my business, or wherever I have to do it. It's really easy to say that you don't have time, and it's really easy to use excuses, but they will get you nowhere. And so if you want to move forward, you've got to lose those, okay? I'll also say this. If you're waiting for someone to give you some magic answer, if you think that that you're going to watch a training like this and that I'm going to hand you a golden piece of advice and it's just going to change your business, it's not. Hopefully you'll take some things away, but it is your responsibility to go learn things. So if you don't know the comp plan like the back of your hand, go find it. That's the first thing I did. Printed off the full comp plan, all 20-something pages, and I read that sucker because I needed to make money. And in order for me to make money, I had to know how. And so I went and got that information. I didn't wait for Christy to do a call with me and teach me, right? If you feel like something's not working for you, you're not getting the responses that you want from social media, or you are not getting, your retention rate isn't that good. I don't know what your current issue is, but I bet you know what it is. It is your job to figure out how to fix it. Maybe that means research. Maybe that means reading a book. Maybe it does mean weekly coaching calls. I don't know how you work. I don't know how your mind works. That's yours to figure out. Okay. Okay. And lastly, let's talk about this quote that I talked about earlier. It doesn't pay to get discouraged. You guys, I have spent my time in the bathroom floor crying. I have spent my time feeling like I'm not good enough. Everyone else is faster. Everyone else is better. Everyone else is pretty. Everyone else lives in town, and I don't. I'm just a horse girl, right? I have had the months and months of working my tail off and literally seeing no change in my business. Or working my tail off and going backwards. I've been there. It is frustrating and it is hard. I've banged my head against the wall. I've prayed. I've begged. I have sent out incentives. I've done all the things, okay? I've worried about paying our bills. I've worried about being embarrassed. I have actually had the thoughts, do these products really work? And is it even possible to make it to the top anymore? I have had those thoughts. So if you're in that place, I get it. I do. But let me put your mind at ease. The products, they 100% work. They do. The stories are everywhere, and they're from people that I know and that I trust, okay? They're not made up. The business is like nothing else out there, and there is so much room at the top, without a doubt. I meet people literally every single time that I go to town. I meet someone who's never even heard of Plexus, okay? And you are good enough. You are absolutely good enough to do this. You don't have to look like anyone else. You don't have to act like anyone else. I made a post the other day about that I don't carry around a Louis Vuitton bag. It's really easy to get insecure about being different, but it doesn't matter. Here's one of the things that surprised me. My husband and I talk about this after our first trip to Hawaii. He said, oh my gosh, there are so many different kinds of people. He said, Jenny, there are people more country than us. I was like, I know, isn't that the coolest thing ever? But you don't have to fit a mold. And as a matter of fact, if you don't fit that mold, awesome. Because that means that you've got a different market, okay? And I'll close with this and tell you that, if this is where you're planting your flag and this is what you're going to do, and your goal is to make it to the top or even to make it to silver or gold or whatever, I want you to know up front that this business is hard. There are parts of it that are easy and fun and you'll have a blast, and I love it. And I have fun every day doing my job. But there are also parts of this that are really, really hard. And if you're going to go very far, then you are going to be faced with some of those hard times. But just because it's hard doesn't make it wrong. And it doesn't make it impossible, and it doesn't make it bad, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Most of the time, the hard things are the things that you really need to be doing. If you don't have a little bit of hard stuff in your business, then you're not doing enough, okay? Because the hard times, they're where you grow. The hard times are where you face fears. The hard times are where you figure out how to move forward. And once you've done that, you're going to be able to pull people in, and you're going to be able to teach them how to do the same thing. Hard does not equal bad, and it doesn't equal wrong. And once
Just a minute, y'all. I know I was on mute. Sorry, she'll be back. This did this earlier when we were testing it, so I know she knows what to do. So this is so good. I know she's coming back. Come back, Jenny. I know she's coming back. Here she comes.
Okay, sorry. I
was so good. Okay.
Okay, but once you change your mindset and you become okay with things being hard, or you become okay and come to terms with the fact that you're not the best and none of us are, and that it's okay to get better, you will move forward in your business. Things will start happening for you once you start doing the hard things. And that is all that I have, Suzanne.
Oh my goodness. Jenny, this is fantastic. I took all these notes and I probably had chills at least 3 times and started tearing up at least once. So good. I'm serious. One of the best, I know some of you are still watching, one of the most inspirational, encouraging calls I've seriously heard in a long time. And I jotted some notes down, and I love a couple things. You had so many good quotes. I love, first of all, your next jewel could be watching you. I remember you saying you watched Christy Hull for 13 months posting on Facebook. So true. I mean, so true. Don't stop. Another thing that really stood out to me was, just because, this is one of my favorites, just because something is hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Right.
So true. I mean, I just know that a lot of times when we lose people or people stop us, they're like, this is too hard. I guess God's telling me, or if you want to use a spiritual card, whatever, they're not supposed to do it. What does it mean that? And you're so right on that. Making excuses. I love that you went to convention as a silver and you had nobody that was even going. My very first convention I went, didn't have any team members.
Right.
One of the best things I could have ever done.
For sure.
A couple more things and then we'll wrap it up. But I love this business is your responsibility. It absolutely is. It's not your sponsors. It's not your husbands. It's not your teams. It's not the companies. Not the company's, job to get you to where you think you need to be. Go do it yourself. Constantly, we're talking about be a self-starter. Do it. Go out, research. When I first started, even almost 5 years ago, several of us had no tools. We had nothing out there. We just kind of had to do it. We just had to figure it out ourselves. And then the last thing I love, where I kind of got teary-eyed as you were talking, was it doesn't pay to get discouraged. And how I know that there's been so many of you that have just, because I've witnessed it. I've had tears for some of you that have just been like, I'm crying, and I'm just, I've been on the floor just like, why is this happening? Why can't I get to this certain place? Why is this not working for me? And so it doesn't help to do that, but just to keep your eyes on the prize and keep your blinders on and just keep moving forward. So, and that you're good enough.
That's right.
That was great. So Jenny, fantastic.
Oh, I'm glad you loved it.
Right away, because I'm going to put it right on my team page. Probably going to have an incentive for people to watch it that didn't get to, or even if you did watch it. So thank you so much. So encouraging. Love how we can learn from each other in the struggles that we've had in this business and in the good times too, just to see the victories that that you've come through in your business. So thank you again for taking the time. Thank everybody
for watching.
And y'all have a great night and a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.